In mid-2025, China was struck by one of its most destructive natural disasters in recent years, a series of massive floods that engulfed vast areas of the country. Provinces such as Henan, Hubei, Sichuan, and Guangxi reported widespread flooding, with the Yangtze River basin suffering the heaviest burden. Urban centers faced waterlogged streets and submerged neighborhoods, while rural communities endured the collapse of farmlands and transportation links. The sheer geographic scale of the disaster meant that its consequences rippled far beyond the directly flooded areas, affecting trade, logistics, and economic stability on a national level. Meteorological experts identified multiple drivers behind the 2025 floods. The primary factor was an unusually prolonged monsoon season, characterized by intense and persistent rainfall. Warmer sea surface temperatures in the South China Sea and the Pacific Ocean fueled stronger convection systems, bringing repeated storms inland. Residential damage was extensive. Hundreds of thousands of homes were flooded, ranging from high-rise apartment complexes in major cities to traditional rural houses built near riverbanks. In urban areas, underground parking garages, basements, and lower residential floors were completely inundated, leaving entire blocks temporarily uninhabitable. In rural villages, homes constructed from wood and mud bricks suffered irreparable damage, forcing many families to seek shelter in emergency facilities. Urban water supply systems were also strained. Pipelines burst under pressure, sewage systems backed up, and tap water in several districts became unsafe for consumption until treatment plants were restored. Transportation infrastructure bore the brunt of the floods. Highways in Henan and Hubei were washed away, cutting off supply routes for food and essential goods. Railways faced both track damage and landslides triggered by rain-soaked hillsides, halting passenger and cargo trains alike. The floodwaters severely disrupted energy systems. Substations in low-lying areas were submerged, cutting electricity to both residential neighborhoods and industrial facilities. In several provinces, rolling blackouts were introduced to stabilize the power grid. Media outlets played a critical role in broadcasting updates, but the information flow remained inconsistent in many regions, revealing gaps in disaster communication planning. The education system came to a halt in flood-hit areas. Thousands of schools were closed, either because they were directly damaged or because they were repurposed as emergency shelters for displaced families. This disruption affected millions of students, delaying lessons and examinations. Healthcare facilities also faced enormous pressure. Several hospitals in flooded provinces reported damaged equipment, power outages, and shortages of clean water. Mobile medical units had to be deployed to provide urgent care, while pharmacies reported disruptions in the delivery of essential medicines. These challenges underscored how floods can destabilize not only physical infrastructure, but also essential social services. The floods in 2025 inflicted unprecedented economic costs. Preliminary estimates placed losses in the tens of billions of dollars, factoring in damages to homes, industries, infrastructure, and farmland. Factories in central China suspended production for weeks due to water-damaged machinery and disrupted supply chains. The agricultural sector was especially hard hit. Millions of hectares of farmland were submerged destroying rice paddies, cornfields, and vegetable plots at critical stages of growth. Livestock farms lost access to feed supplies, while fisheries reported contamination of ponds and hatcheries. These losses sparked concerns about food prices and supply stability throughout the country. For ordinary citizens, the floods turned daily life upside down. Markets were closed, food supplies became more expensive, and public transport options were drastically reduced. Families living in temporary shelters had to share limited space, often with scarce sanitation facilities. Access to clean drinking water was one of the greatest challenges, as local treatment plants were overwhelmed by floodwaters. Yet, amid the difficulties, acts of solidarity were abundant. Local communities organized volunteer groups, delivering meals, clothing, and medicine to those in need. These grassroots efforts provided vital relief where formal aid struggled to reach quickly. Climate experts emphasize that such floods will become increasingly common as weather patterns grow more extreme, meaning prevention and preparedness are no longer optional but necessary. Natural disasters, like the 2025 floods, are stark reminders of humanity's vulnerability to the forces of nature. While economic losses and social disruptions are immense, they also highlight the importance of resilience, adaptation, and education. Teaching communities how to prepare for floods, building awareness around climate adaptation, and investing in sustainable infrastructure are key steps in protecting lives and livelihoods.